I'm going to share something that I heard and that happened today or this week, and a movie that we watched, which is called Invaders from Mars. It's made in 1953. Do you recall a movie where they had a young boy, about 12 years old, and he looked out his window at 5 in the morning and saw a spaceship land in the sand field behind his house. And then he went to tell his parents that the ship there's something weird out there, and it's in the prairie, in the sand prairie. It's all sandy, and there's a walkway with a wood fence that leads up to a kind of an open top of the hill, and that's where the aliens are, underneath the sand. And anytime anybody walks out there, they get sucked into the sand pit, into the ship, and disappear. And then they come out, and they've all got a little what do you call implant in the back of their necks, and they're all real weird and robotic, the humans, and the boy's parents, and the police detective and the police guys that came out to investigate it, and the general also ended up, or the sheriff, was it? Yeah, I think it was the sheriff. No, there was also a general, and he was taken out there because they were all living in this kind of a place that had a military base. And the military base, they were investigating stuff like the UFO phenomenons and all other kinds of stuff, science experiments. And so they had this community of people there, and that's where the aliens landed. You remember this movie?
Believe it or not, the title sounds extremely familiar, yes.
Right. So you probably saw it, and then they blotted out your memory after you saw it. I'm just kidding, but in a way, because you see, this movie was really projecting what was really happening, and people didn't realize it. I didn't realize it, but I must have seen the movie, many times. I can't count how many. I just was fascinated by that and scared the crap out of me. And they showed it on TV all the time. And they showed a bunch of these movies. In 1951, actually, and movies made in 1950 are a very important set of movies, including The Day the Earth Stood Still.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Well, oh yeah, I've seen that one more than many more times than Invaders from Mars. I mean, 100 times probably. It's a fantastic movie. That's the movie where the alien, the Michael Rennie's the English guy, but he plays the space alien visitor, and he's got the big robot that can actually stop the electricity around the entire globe. And that's what happens. The robot stops the entire electric field of the Earth for 30 minutes as a demonstration of their power. And they're coming in peace, but the movie is about the last statement that the alien makes before they take off and leave, and saying that if the world doesn't straighten up and fly right, get it together, it's going to be wiped out. The populations are going to be taken out because we're watching you. And we're observing throughout the galaxy. We go to different planets and places, and there's a whole network.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But that implies that there's some goodness out there.
Yes, it does. And there is. Absolutely. Right now, the reptilian set is being urged to actually turn over a new cheek. And some of them are going there and going with that and dropping the reptilian, which is like your survival mode, um, survival of the fittest, and uh, all of that kind of uh, invasive takeover, domination of reality or their space or our space. And that's what the reptilians, which is pretty close to what I call repnecks, and it's not that far from the reptilian uh, uh, party, which we know in politics. Uh, Not that they're all like that. It's just that this particular comes from a historical legacy that has been part of the whole origination of mankind. And that's what we're dealing with now. Um, I'm really covering a huge number more bases here. So let me go back to your radio show because there are connections here. And you were being given a demonstration of how, well, by becoming the radio star, let's say for a moment, you were given a position where you could become a voice and be that voice of truth and fun and goodwill, all three of those, and or whatever else that might be there. And in any case, because just after the World War II, there was a whole indoctrination program that was instituted using all the military technology and the media and the social cultural institutionalism that, as an example, building the tract homes in California and in Pennsylvania, tract homes, the whole suburban American dream lifestyle, communities of all the homes looked alike and right next door to each other.
Yeah, I read about that.
Well, they built it to house the populations, and that's the baby boom, and we're all part of the baby boomers. And at the same time, there was this sci-fi revolution, film industry revolution, and the whole perspective of the blockbuster movie industry. And Hollywood, you could say, had a golden age in the 50s with the color movie and Elvis and all the other icons, the great celebrity era, I would say, related to that. So all those things are all part of this program that they were instituting that was following the beginning of the atomic age. And space, going to the moon, whether it was real or not, is a media event, which is the most important thing about it, actually. It really wasn't that they got to the moon, because we gained nothing much from getting to the moon, or even if we didn't, if we did go, there's a question about that. And nonetheless, that you see, all of this is representing the simulator of reality that we're being presented with, and that has been instituted through all of the celebrations of holidays, as an example: Memorial Day, Labor Day, Christmas,
Yeah,
New Year's.
The whole American experiment, starting with the Declaration of Independence, this was some kind of a plot or what? I missed that. I didn't understand what you were saying.
Okay, well, yes, you could call it um, uh, what we're using, describing as a marketing ploy, which was to develop the national heritage and to use the entire it's an indoctrination program of American patriotism and economic, abundance, and the great continent of America. And it's also, we'll go with the Monroe Doctrine here, because that was actually a statement saying that America is the ruler of the entire continent of North America. And that is that we control the borders. And the Monroe Doctrine claims the Atlantic coastal area down to and around Florida, and like that is one example of their possession.
Wait, so does that mean, is it bad or good? I'm missing something here.
Right. It's not bad or good. It's not right or wrong. It's just what they did and what has occurred. And the program.
Who's they? Who is they?
Well, you could say it's, yes, the Americans who are the ruling body, but actually the ones that took over the country were bankers, lawyers, military leaders, etc. And they were instituting, the Constitution is a body of work that institutes the controlled domination of the people who are within the residential and the zone, not just the states, the 50 states, but the entire zone that America is able to be controlling.
Okay, so it's a
that suggests that the bad guys, so to speak, are those men. That's not correct. What I'm saying is that they are actually following the same program which the Germanic peoples and the Europeans did to take control of Europe and their states of what is now called the Euro state. Is just another model for we control this whole area, even if there's governmental boundaries between the countries. That is not the real thing that's really doing this controlling. The controlling is being done on the economic and technological fields, and using the tools and the language of what everyone understood and believed to be the meaning of these various words, like Constitution or Declaration of Independence or the Magna Carta, which, see, that was back then. That was another one that in 2012, not 2012, 1250 or so, when they decided that they were going to join all of these areas where they were mostly ruled by a king or the noble, that is, the ones who ran the farms and owned the land. They were instituting a way of civilizing humanity, but also it was to gain control of all of the different factions of races and peoples that were in their landed areas, like England or Germany or what have you. And this is really Germanic, because most of the people were Germanic in basis, that lived in the European area. And nonetheless, you see, this was their way, this body of words that they had for the Magna Carta, that was like the next stage in the plan. This goes back to the past history. Charlemagne in 800 Then another 400 years or whatever, it came to England. Another 400 years, and then they started to come to America in 1600. And they were always, it's always about this invasion, so to speak, or takeover, and that's what's going on the planet now in a whole nother different way, is that this takeover model, which we can say is related to the reptilian mindset, is being instituted through the media, through the words, the language, and the technology. Domination.
Yeah, but wait a second. So are the reptilian aliens going to invade Earth or what? Take over us?
I think you need to reverse your view entirely and say, no, it's the other way around. They already have. It's been going on a tremendously long time. It goes back to all the other old civilizations on the planet, which includes Egypt, etc., and way back before that. We're going back to Atlantis.
So this has been there forever.
Well, whatever, maybe not forever, but there have been, there's also the space war. There was supposedly, I don't have all data exactly, nobody does, but we know that between Mars and Jupiter, there's a vast field of meteor or asteroid bodies, and it looks very clearly that there was a planet at one point between Mars and Jupiter, and it was destroyed or blew up or what have you.
The asteroids?
The asteroids that are between Mars and Jupiter, there's a whole bunch of debris out there, and there's a large space between Mars and Jupiter. We have here local, more it's like our planetary system, is Sun, Venus, Mercury, Mars. And then you have a jump to Jupiter. Or Mars and Jupiter are kind of the next set outside of Venus, Mercury, and the Sun, which are and our Earth are close. But Mars is not that far away, actually. So that's good. We'll bring this around full circle to Mars because in this Invaders from Mars movie, the boy finally is able to get all the adults and the military people and the scientists to work together and say, hey, I'm telling the truth. They're in that field and they're turning my parents into robots. Now, what happens with the chip that got put in their neck is if something happens and they identify it, then the aliens turn off the chip, and then they make the chip, and then the guy just dies, lays down and dies. So there's a danger there with, that's what happened. That's what happens to a controlled person, that when they finally are realized that they're being controlled, and what we call tap-lined, which is what Dwayne is talking about, their very important word that nobody seems to be aware of, is that we're always being tapped, and we have been tapped. And as an example, just not you're any different from me or anyone else, we are being tapped all the time. And when we watch movies, as an example, that is a form of them getting this message out and delivering a line of information or communication, or a tap line, an electronic connection to us. It may not be an actual chip in our neck or wherever, but it exists. And so there's 3 movies that were made in 1951. There's another one that was called The Thing with James Arness. And this is where the alien ship lands up in the North Pole under the ice. It's buried, and the scientists discover the ship, and they, I guess, tried to excavate it by blowing up some of the ice. And the alien is this tall man, extra tall, kind of funny in a way, because he's like your character that you described, the boy. I didn't quite catch his name. The big boy that was 6 inches taller than you and 50 pounds.
Jerry Dodge.
Jerry Dodge. You see, the name Dodge is, funny, because that's like, the word dodge means to dodge a bullet, kind of.
Yeah.
And all of these things are related. Here's what I want to tell you about is Mr. Wilson and the name Butch. And also, you said the radio station was WILL.
That's for Illinois, yeah.
Will.
Yeah.
That is our free will that we have to exercise in order to free ourselves from the tap line controlled system grid. We also call it the Matrix, another movie about that simulator that we're actually in. And we're in it. We can't avoid it. We can't deny it. It is, of course, most are commonly ignorant of, or if they do see it, they don't want to know it, because part of it is they're like their tap line. They like the controlled.
Wait. So how do you get rid of your tap lines? I've been trying to do that. I don't know how to do it.
Right. Well, it's not something you have to do something actually physically. It's mostly just being aware and saying, well, okay, that one's gone. I'm letting that one go. And there is a possibility, I think in general, I could say that the tap line is kind of like a cord that's stuck in our backs or our shoulders or something. That's how I've seen it depicted. Where it's like electronic feed line going into, or electromagnetic line of force that's going into our body, and it, in a way, it drains us when we exercise it. It's hard to exercise when we're being puppeted like that with the line of force, and so our mind and our attention is not on our present. So in a way, the way to do it is to just be very present and aware. Just keep yourself aware, and you do that partially by everything that you do. Everything you do it consciously. You do it by not by just going and doing it automatically, but instead, I shared this with our friend Val. I called it look, see, and do. Most people, they have something they want to do, so they just start going to do it. You know what I mean? We just automatically, I'm going to go to the bathroom. They don't think they're even thinking about how they're going to get to the bathroom. And other than they already know because they've already taken that path. But in this case, you're not going to the bathroom, you're letting yourself be aware of. So first is to look, and then you're not moving, you're not doing yet. And then I've been doing this as an example with a building project where everything I do, I really look at what I'm going to do. I've been moving wood and building, and I have to be careful because there are trees around and I can hit myself in the tree or with the wood or the tool. And so I'm being very careful with every movement. Instead of being automatic, let's get it done as fast as possible, and you don't really think about what you're doing. It's just doing it, but you can do that because you've already done that, so it's familiar.
I think you should think of everything you're doing, getting the right food together, and just thinking about it instead of doing it
Yes.
mechanically.
Well, yes, not that's right. You look to see what you want to eat. You look. It's kind of like you're using your awareness now. You're not actually going to get the food, but the next part is to see what you're actually going to put together or what you're thinking you're going to need. And then you go start to do.
Okay, I want to ask you about your guide. You've met your guide, right?
My guide. I wouldn't say I have a guide, but I know what you mean by a guide, but you don't essentially need a guide. You have a network, and especially by new you are allowing yourself to be in the new network with the new guides as a whole. And also, of course, that means if you're with the whole, well, you're with the parts as well. Just like watching TV, you've got the remote and the TV and the electronics and so forth. So you're already with. It's identifying and being aware that you are and recognizing it, and every moment you're working with that recognition, and you're using your awareness, recognize, and then you have your intention of what it is you want to do or see and be with.
But wait a second.
Yeah.
Isn't it true that to get past the dark area up to the seventh level, whatever you call that level, Satnam, that you have to have a guide to go through the dark area?
No, you don't have to. No. Now, it wouldn't, if that happens, you have this intention of going across the deep dark border or being beyond creation. Instantly you can do this right now. Bingo, you're there.
Wait. Okay, so how do I do this right now?
It's not really a doing, it's more like you're recognizing it and you're with it. You're with the all new or the all is, and it's there isn't a need for I'm saying, essentially it's not a co-partnering thing. It's a being aware of the you see, it's not having the master take you or the guide giving you the permission. It's only your recognition of it, and then by your allowing yourself the recognition.
Allowing the recognition? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. I'm kind of working with it right now while you're talking about it. I had this sense when you asked that question of whatever we call the guide, kind of telling me, he's telling me to be less vociferous, and also it or he or whatever is saying, say whatever I just said about allowing the recognition. Because once that real recognition is established, you don't even need to be concerned about the breaking it or losing it, because you start to realize that you can always be in there. You're always with it. It is with you, and it's instead of thinking I am with it, it's more like, well, it is with you. And maybe you could say it is as if it is you. In other words, yeah, it's not something separate. There is no separation between in the seventh level, we'll call it. That if that was heaven, we'll say that that has always been heaven. There is no time to it. There's no getting to it from someplace else, crossing the universe. There's no necessity to go across the universe as an image example, because we are here in the real universes, and there is no distance. There's no space, time per se. There's no field. I call it the field of dreams. But there's see, there are references that I use because I've been doing that exercise I call the SPEX daily almost, and I kind of go across the 7 levels, and sometimes it's like in one breath or 2 breaths I go, okay, there I went across, and along the way I had some word for the let me give it to you this way. Here's the universe. It's an emerald forest across the field of dreams, on the tree of heaven, in the mountain of light, in the river of stars, of the ocean of light, or the Oceanus, the ocean of the isness, and the what I call the solar ice, or the solar eye.
Did you write that?
Oh yeah, I've been doing that exercise every day almost.
What do you mean? What exercise?
Well, it's just I think of those terms, and I'm kind of new you, and I don't necessarily do the new you, but I might do it to start with, and then I say, okay, I'm in the emerald forest of the field of dreams, on the mountain of light, on the tree of heaven.
Wait. Is there any way you could send me a copy of that?
Yeah, I have a whole thing, and it's in this video I made. I thought I listed it here. It's called SPEX. And what's interesting, while I write it down here, is these are also the names, at least at the beginning, of very good movies. I've got this written in a volume I have, so it's been repeated a few times during some of these Solaris shows I've been doing. Yeah. Every day I've been doing a Solar Today show thing, which is in the videos that are on the YouTube, and I do a show on where the stars are, so to speak. But it's really mostly about what is really going on, and I'm trying to also expand the people who are physicians and astrologers and all that, because none of them have been listening to me, and I have found the most advanced field of light that astrologers have been, observing. But I found what I call the real solaristry or solar art of this. And so the exercise is just a coordination of some of that all together, and the 7 levels, which is, something like a forest, field, mountain, tree, great tree, river, ocean, and sun.
Oh, well, I was watching the video. You said that you appeared in your light body.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's that light body you have, and that body is made up of 7 parts, let's say. That is, but it's at the 5th level, and that is where I think the Sat Nam is stationed. It's kind of at the peak of that touches the 6th level, that is the deep dark border that crosses into the 7th level, where there is no Yeah, right, like that. So it's not so important to be concerned with that or getting to that, because really you want to, the real thing is not an exercise that you have to practice to think you're doing it's like sailing a ship. Uh, you have the ship, and you are the ship, so there wouldn't be any need for an anchor, and there wouldn't be any need for the mast, except for the parts of yourself that you have, which are your mind, your body, your emotions, and your solar body and your causal body. That's cause and effect in creation. You have those, they give you the recognitions of your awareness. Um, like we have our mind, and our mind is able to perceive things and recognize what we perceive. And mind has four different parts to it. Um, and each one of those, one is the recognition, another might be the awareness, another is it's your intention, and or the evaluation of what we perceive and see and or know. And so yes, we have that vehicle of uh, uh, conviction that we use because we have those bodies, and we have in the physical, we recognize them as our mind or our emotions or our physical senses. And yes, we don't have to turn them off. What happens to people is that they use all of their senses and indulge in them, and they use their mind in a particular ways. In other words, it's obfuscated or focused in a certain direction. And in other words, we're limiting ourselves by using the mind of itself, because we really don't need the mind to be aware. We don't need emotions to be aware and recognize. It helps us in the physical and in our life to be able to use these tools, the mind and the emotions, or the physical senses, to be aware.
When you did the video, um, were you in your light body, or was this something you wanted to convey, like a metaphor, or what?
Yeah, it's both. I definitely had an experience that was very spontaneous, and I was doing a walking meditation, and the sky had this clouds that look like an eagle, and then I noticed the sun at the end of the road, and I walked into it, and it was like a physical metaphor of the true reality. And it was like really, yeah, I get it. I was getting it while it was happening, and I thought, well, this is really, yeah, this is a demonstration. And I've continued with this same general idea to do something daily.
What's the best way to meditate?
It's not a meditation, though, you see, Fred. It's not like you're focusing directly on something particular. A lot of times it's just letting go of anything that might seem to be there in our consciousness, because we don't need thoughts from the past to be there. You don't have to dwell on things that are going on and all day long or at any particular time. And yes, in terms of our physical life and our literal physical self, we do need to have that. Uh, we're thinking about things and what we should do or not do, etc. And but this isn't that. This exercising, or whatever you might call it, is the not the opposite, but it's almost like you're turning yourself inside out. And so instead of you thinking I'm going into the sun, it's like you're saying, I am the sun. Here I am, new you. I'm shining like the sun. I am the sun. And aha, that's that's it. And if that's enough for that sense, I found I needed to do a little bit more than that sometimes. Sometimes I found I got really off, you know what I mean? And I can't seem to find that new sense, if we can call it that. And so
Yeah.
I have to withdraw, and do an exercise or do something, do the new you, and or remove myself or sleep, all of these things. But it's always good when we do anything, we do it more consciously, that is more aware. And so that's kind of the reason for this exercise. Let me finish something here. With this, I have the snowfield behind me because I had a metaphor for this experience that we are talking about with the invaders from Mars and the radio and the electronics. Because this morning, this is my stepson's birthday, and they woke up because we had a loud boom, and this is the coldest day of the year. It's 25 degrees up here, and it feels with the wind was really blowing hard, and it's about 10 degrees with the wind chill. It's really cold. And so in the morning, about 8 a.m., everybody's still asleep, but I'm up. The transformer went out. The power went out.
Just now?
No, at 8 in the morning, 2 hours, 4 hours ago now. And everything was out. And I'm going, wasn't that interesting? Um, happy birthday. But you see, my stepson lives with us, and my wife and I, and the three of us, and the four cats. And so what happened was I waited for a little while, and then my wife did get up, and we called, and I found out because I went out there, the transformer was blown on both sides of the lake that we live on. We're on one side, and it's a big lake community, and the truck guy, the repairman, was out there, so I got to talk to him. He said, "Well, we don't know when it's going to get fixed, but the transformers too went out on both sides of the field here, and everybody's out of electricity." So it was a little adventure with the electric going out, and you mentioned it in your talk, in your story. And I want to go back to the TV metaphor, because you also had the character named Butch,
Yeah.
and Mr. Wilson.
Yeah.
Now,
Wilson. Yeah.
Mr. Wilson, well, Butch was the head of the bad guy group. Remember, with the dead end kids. I know you know that.
Yes.
And the dead end kids, Butch was, kind of a bad guy. He really wanted to, have funny business. And Mr. Wilson comes in here because there's three Mr. Wilsons, actually. And I think you mentioned something about three guys in your story, too. And this is really fascinating connection, because Mr. Wilson, he represents a couple of different guys. First of all, he was Dennis the Menace's neighbor, who Dennis was constantly hassling and getting in his space or learning from also. And Mr. Wilson went through all kinds of adventures with Dennis the Menace. And Dennis was, about 12 years old? Or 13, 14, 15? Maybe not 15. I think he's about 13. And it's like, hello, And then Mr. Wilson is also the beach ball guy in Tom Hanks' movie when he was abandoned on the island as the FedEx jet crash. In that movie where what's the name of it? You know the one I mean? Tom Hanks on the island.
Yeah, he made up a personality so he wouldn't go crazy. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Wilson. What was the name of that movie? The movie of Splash, or not Splash? That was another Tom Hanks or somebody similar. But whatever, I forgot the name of the. I should remember. Brain art here. But there's also another Mr. Wilson that I heard about in the Invaders from Mars. There was a character named Mr. Wilson who was a neighbor, and the Mrs. Wilson, actually, the boy whose name was David from Invaders from Mars, he went to Mr. Wilson's house to try and they had a daughter who had been zapped with the chip in her neck. The daughter was the same age, and she comes in and she started to burn down the house. They burned down the Wilson's house. The little girl.
Wait a minute. So was Wilson a good guy or a bad guy?
Well, Mr. Wilson in this case was not identified. It was Mrs. Wilson who was visited by the boy. Of course, she's a sweet American housewife woman. And Mr. Wilson, I think, was a scientist. And he actually was there. He was trying to put the fire out, but the little girl had gasoline the house, and it wasn't going to get put out. This Mr. Wilson was one of the scientists. And so you see, there's all these relationships going on. And that's the third Mr. Wilson. So yeah, he was a good guy in the story. But again, it really doesn't matter who's good and who's bad. It's all a presentation of a story that is really reflecting true and reality. And this is, Fred, this is what we're talking about in the reel-to-reel movie shows that we're doing now, where we talk about movies and we're talking about their relations. We've just actually produced a reel-to-reel show right here, absolutely perfectly, and is really good because your story is so much related to it, and it shows also why we're identifying these things. What is the real new you purpose of it? How are we going to become aware? And in my example, just to finish, in 1951, I was born, and that was the day the earth stood still, and The Thing. And I'm sure there's another very important movie that was made. There were a number of them, but you see, the baby boomers, especially those around 1950, between 46 and 53 or 4 or 5, that were, a lot of them were the children of the soldiers that were killed in the past wars. But also, this was the time. Roswell was 1947. This was something going on with the alien visitations. I'm not saying that the aliens hadn't already been here, but what I'm saying is that some references are made to the aliens providing technology to the American military and the world government, or certain forms of technology were either made available or revealed, at least, as potentials.
Whoa, go back. Well, what is reel to reel on?
Okay, reel to reel, we've been doing with Val and Kevin for the last year, and these are movie reviews. And what we mean is reel, R-E-E-L, to reel, R-E-A-L. So the movie reel to the true reality, we're making this reference, connections. So we did Matrix and we did Ghostbusters and stuff like that. Most recently, just Ronald and I have been continuing at the moment. We've done a couple of shows in the last month, and we're going to do them. We are doing them Monday at it's 3 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, Monday at 3 p.m. It might change again, but for now it's Monday, 3 p.m. Trying not to interfere with other scheduled events, but it's not easy. We're actually trying to do is, I've got this idea of the new ages now, and what it is that we're working on the network, of course, to get this out to other people, and send out these kinds of talks and shows, and have people see them, but also to become part of them. And so I'd like you to think about going on your computer instead of the phone, so you could read the chat and you can see these links. But you found the link on your phone already that you were playing at the beginning of our show. So you actually, that was really good. I've never had it happen like that before. And to play parts of this is like parts of our other show parts, like you did. It was really good, and it was very spontaneous, and it's part of this show that I've recorded. Actually, we've gone an hour and 8 minutes, so we're going to finish up and do a new you. One of the things I was demonstrating, we talked about, was just doing everything freely, sharing freely. There really isn't any, trade-off here. It's not about, I did this for you, so you got to do this for me at all. But we do want you to participate, and maybe we'll create something which could be for, I don't know, something like saving the old people. You know what I mean? Because Ronald is 80 also. I might use the example of your radio talk show idea. But I think it's inspiring because it's saying, Fred, you could do this now. You're now elected to do another radio show. With you're the one who got chosen, so I'm going with that. And maybe we should call it Will Radio.
Okay.
That's a really good idea. That's great. Okay, let's do the new you.
All right. New you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep letting us know what's happening. I guess we'll see you on Monday.
Okay, good.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.